Chapter 9. Low-hanging fruit. If you can't spot the sucker in the first half hour at the table, then you are the sucker. Mike McDermott, Rounders. Once time has passed and the new guy phase is over, scrutiny of movements will naturally be on the wane. Then it's time to start thinking about offense. It's time to have some fun. It's time to attack, sow chaos, and cause emotional destruction. The first order of business is to identify easy marks and exploit weak flanks. Here's how. Imposter syndrome. Many people believe they have a job they lucked into or don't deserve. They lack confidence in their abilities, which are usually fine or above average, and are terribly afraid of being exposed. Kind of like that dream where you show up to your high school graduation and then realize you forgot to put on your pants. They fear both failure and success due to their low self-esteem. If you suspect someone might be suffering from imposter syndrome, the first thing to do is decide what you want from them. The answer will lead you to how to best handle exposing them. They threaten you and you want to get rid of them. Shake a paper in their face and speak loudly, with as many people in earshot as possible. Say something like, "What is this supposed to mean? What are you, some kind of fraud?" This will embarrass them and send them skittering for cover. It will also absolutely ruin your chances of having any kind of constructive relationship with them in the future. Ever. Which is good. You don't need this twit. They know something you want to learn, or you want them to do something for you. First, boost confidence that their cover is working. Say something like, "You're always so on top of these presentations, Joan, and it's not easy. They're quite complicated." Second, drop a line that presents yourself as someone who feels like they do, but gently, suggesting that it's ridiculous to feel this way. They will be empathetic, but won't lose confidence in you. Say something like, "At my old firm, we used a different program, so sometimes I screw up the commands here. I know it shouldn't, but it makes me feel like a faker." Third, ask for what you want. "Would you mind looking this over to make sure everything's right before the presentation this afternoon?" They threaten your path to promotion, but you need them as an ally. Give her confidence-building affirmations of her work. She'll be grateful and think well of you. At the same time, drop occasional vague doubts about her abilities to everyone else in the office. "Yeah, it looks great, but comb through it again just to be sure. I know she means well, but sometimes I wonder if Joan really knows that software as well as she lets on." This will get the others to question her, in her mind, threaten with exposure, which will unnerve and paralyze her, while you come out looking like the good guy. Someone you want to keep in check. It's useful to keep people back on their heels. Withholding information can make people look stupid and incompetent. Talking casually about other people's failings in an insightful but fun and snarky way can make the imposter syndrome sufferer worry about the failings you see in them. Work in a little innocent wordplay. Point out things like so-and-so's baseless promotion or how Mike really lucked out. Make a joke about Ms. Winthrop, who clearly lies about her age, as in, "We should make her a mock apple pie for her birthday this year." Phrases like Duxophony or little loaded words like expose, transparent, reveal, lie, fraud, and sham will act like a quick sharp poke in the ribs. In general, consider people's weaknesses as open doors of opportunity for you. When you see an opening, take it.
Vanity. When they're not busy feeling like imposters, people often secretly believe themselves to be greater than they appear to the world. They just haven't been given the proper opportunity to shine. For this reason, flattery is most effective when it reflects how a person wishes to be seen. Excessive or off-mark flattery will be seen as false except by the most vain and tends to make people uncomfortable and suspicious. One useful form of flattery is to ask for a favor, sometimes called the Ben Franklin effect. Dale Carnegie cited asking for a favor in How to Win Friends and Influence People as a subtle but effective form of flattery. Another effective form of flattery is agreeing with what people tell you about themselves. It's what they want you to believe and how they want to be perceived. Supporting their claims will make the person feel good, and they will like you for it. Congratulate people on decisions they have made. Entrenching the backfire effect. The backfire effect is confirmation bias backed into a corner. The more emotionally charged or deeply held a belief is, the more doggedly a person will hold onto it. Amazingly, contradictory evidence tends to make the original belief stronger. You may think this is the shadowland of the lunatic fringe, conspiracy theories, quack religion, government cover-ups, and Area 54, but even a mundane thing like Obama releasing his birth certificate made some people even more positive he was born in Kenya. This is insane. But again, going back to the strange blindness caused by cognitive bias and belief, it can be most usefully exploited. If you can get someone worked up about a false belief which is advantageous to you, they will hold onto it, no matter what. Get them incensed, and they will swear to you the sky is green. It's dismayingly effective. If you want to obstruct, first get people polarized and feed them antithetical data during stressful situations. Once they start digging in, they will soon be entrenched. Backfire effect is a great way to stoke polarization, but be warned, it is almost impossible to reverse by any rational means, so use it carefully. Conversely, if you can stay alert to your own irrational belief defenses, if you can force yourself to keep an open mind, you will always have the upper hand. I know that most men, not only those considered clever, but even those who are very clever and capable of understanding most difficult scientific, mathematical, or philosophic problems, can very seldom discern even the simplest and most obvious truth, if it be such as to oblige them to admit the falsity of conclusions they have formed, perhaps with much difficulty, conclusions of which they are proud, which they have taught to others, and on which they have built their lives. Leo Tolstoy, What is Art? Engineer losses studies in behavioral economics show people hate to lose much more than they love to win. They call it loss aversion. Losing makes people feel really bad. If you want to throw someone off balance, do what you can covertly to make their projects fail. Think of it as the opposite of insider trading. Withhold important information. Mislead. Stall. Instill doubt.
Manufacture a crisis. In the same vein, if your own project looks like it's going to fail, don't just wait for it to happen. Make a big deal out of it. Make it seem like it's more of a disaster than it really is. People will panic, and you will be in an uncomfortable spot, at first. But, when the actual fail occurs, it will be much less serious and people will be relieved. They may even feel that you saved the day. This may have been what Chicken Little was up to when he ran around yelling, "The sky is falling." Everything after that is greeted with relief. Stoke fear. The more vivid or recent a memory is, the higher the perceived risk associated with that memory. This is known as availability bias. For instance, people were more afraid of planes crashing into buildings right after September 11th than they are now. A good way to increase people's fear of a bad outcome is to remind them of an important or recent incident in which things went horribly wrong. This will make them nervous. And when they are nervous, they are vulnerable and prone to make mistakes. Even a simple statement like, "Well, you remember how that went last time," can undermine a person's confidence and put you in charge. In the 1920s, psychiatrist John B. Watson conducted an experiment that today would probably land him in jail for child abuse, so it's a good thing he got a good one in for science back then. By banging pots and pans whenever the baby boy, little Albert, was playing with a cute furry thing, over time, Watson was able to make Albert terrified of all sweet furry things. There are subtle ways you can increase a person's reluctance to do something you don't want them to do by linking it psychologically to something unpleasant. Use the pulpit. Fear of public speaking is the most common phobia. Make your underlings stand up in front of everyone else and make presentations whenever possible. They hate it and fear it. It will make them focus on their own anxiety rather than thinking about you. Also in presentation situations, as a speaker, You can use silence to cause anxiety in the audience. Get up there and clear your throat, but say nothing for 5 to 10 seconds. Everyone will get nervous for you. Then say, "Just kidding," and launch in. Whatever you say after that won't matter. Silence is a powerful tool in other situations as well, because it makes people so uncomfortable. Cops and trial lawyers use prolonged silences to get suspects to blurt out secrets just to fill up the dead air. Angry spouses use silence to break each other. A great way of drawing the other guy out is to ask people to talk about themselves, then listen. 2 things will happen. 1. You'll learn things that may be useful later if a little coercion is required. 2. They'll probably like you because you seem so interested in them.
Let them self-destruct in a public way. Incompetent people fail to recognize their own lack of skill, grossly overestimate their abilities, and are unable to recognize talent in other people. This is Jimmy. He sits 2 seats to your left and has a boomy voice that lands hard on the D's, which he uses to crow boldly on every fucking phone, calling attention to the fact that he has no clue about anything. He's also an arrogant prick running in your lane. You daydream of crushing him with a front loader. But hold on a minute. This is a perfect scenario where you should relax. Instead of trying to shut him down, encourage his boldness, leave his mistakes in full view and convince him to bring his worst ideas forward. In short, as the old saying goes, give him enough rope to hang himself. Harness the power of the herd. While you understand rules are at core, created for someone else's comfort and peace of mind, most people don't appreciate this fact. They accept rules as real, as in actual things like guardrails or drawbridges. They believe the empty tautology "rules are rules" actually means something. This makes some self-preservation sense when breaking rules is met with punishment. But the psychological acceptance of following the rules extends far beyond obedience. It taps into the core desire of many to fit in with the majority and to follow the status quo. Studies show that 76% of people will agree with a group's unanimous, and visibly, empirically false, decision so as not to appear stupid, even if they can see the herd answer is clearly wrong. Harness this power of social consensus. Everyone wants to fit in. Status quo bias is a fancy name for inertia. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler says, "Never underestimate the power of inertia." People stay in terrible relationships and dead-end jobs they hate out of inertia. The good thing for you about inertia is that when people are doing what they've always done, they're less likely to be paying careful attention to anything. They are not on guard. They are not scrutinizing. This gives you greater latitude to operate on the sly. If you want to promote somnambulant behavior, don't change anything. On the other hand, if you want to agitate someone or direct someone's attention away from what you're up to, upend their inertia. This is easy to do. Make new rules for the parking lot. Change the network operating systems. Introduce a new, mandatory, and confusing piece of software. Move the break room to another floor. It's amazing how worked up people will get without realizing that what's upsetting them is change itself, not the stupid thing you are changing. Related to this is something Thaler calls choice architecture. This simply means that people will choose things they perceive to be the easiest and most direct, so the manner in which you present their options affects their choice. If you don't want someone to choose A, put obstacles in front of it. This can be something as simple as requiring an obnoxiously complicated password every time they try to access A. Conversely, make what you want them to choose seem easy and direct, even if it's less advantageous to them in real terms.
True confessions. People hide behind laws and customs and society and hierarchy because they are a bunch of chicken shits. Judith Smalley, bartender. Denver, Colorado. Bullying. This should not be your first choice of action when dealing with someone you cannot control. It is messy, public, and the results aren't exactly foolproof. However, if you find yourself in a really tight spot, you should know that at least 25% of people bullied at the workplace quit their jobs. So keep bullying in your back pocket. Money doesn't talk, it swears. It is difficult to get a man to understand something, when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Upton Sinclair, candidate for governor, and how I got licked. This one is fun. If you really want to shake someone from the tree, find out how much more money their colleague earns, then let the person making less know the difference. You will instantly spark a deep unrest and resentment. Frans de Waal's famous study on pay inequality in monkeys illustrates this to hilarious effect. This will shake up the department and no one will blame you for causing trouble because they will be focusing all their ire on their cheating backstabbing boss. There are all sorts of inventive ways to identify and exploit weakness. Encourage worry and self-destruction whenever possible without drawing attention to yourself. Pick off the easy ones first, they are good practice. You'll need it.